Assalamu alaikum, family. This is Mariam Alima with another episode of What Do You Know About Islam? I would first like to greet all of the listeners with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad in 1930, to whom praises are due forever. I further bear witness that he rose one up from among us, the exalted Christ and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and that they with their two hands and their two minds formed and left behind with us our Redeemer, our Comforter, the Messiah in our midst, the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It is in these three great names that I greet you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum, which is peace be unto you, which I truly pray for you and for myself every day. Now, I'm really excited. I know it has been a long while since I have posted anything or uploaded an episode for this budding little podcast that I have going on here. And I've decided to, I've said this before, that I never want to upload anything without having true purpose. I don't want to come on here and talk just to speak and hear my own voice and just for y'all to just be looking just for no reason. So I've decided to take on a new, what do I want to call it? A new segment. This is a new segment to What Do You Know About Islam? And as Muslims in the Nation of Islam, we follow the guidance and the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad that was dictated to him by Master Prophet Muhammad. And so one thing that is very prominent in the Nation of Islam is our dietary restrictions and how we eat, when we eat, what we eat. And I've decided to take on a great book for our new portion, our new segment, and that, of course, is How to Eat to Live. If you're looking at this on YouTube, you get to see the beautiful book. So I've decided to basically make this kind of like an audible, and I'm going to come on. We're going to do this quickly. Why not? I plan on doing it at least 3 times a week, maybe more. I need to get this information into my brain. I have which we do it so often. At least I can say that I have done it more often than one. You should never do it. Picking up a book and not reading it in its entirety is, silly. You can't assume that that people put filler words in books, especially guidance from Allah. Like, no, every word in here is not idle. Every word in here has significant weight and should be read cover to cover. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And I'll be on here for, maybe 45 minutes each segment. And I pray that you all follow along with me. Refresh your memory if you have read it in its entirety, because there was things that were pointed out to me that we are prescribed not to eat, and I was not aware. With me skimming it, how I was not aware, because I skimmed it. I was looking for specific things rather than reading it to get all the knowledge that I'm being blessed with. So without further ado, let's begin our reading. From God in Person, Master Prophet Muhammad, by Elijah Muhammad, Messenger of Allah. How to Eat to Live. Show his picture. I'm going to skip the contents and go right to the first page, page 1. Right way to eat. There's no way for us to learn the right way to eat in order to live a long life except through the guidance and teachings of Allah, who came in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad. The Bible says that he will give us more life abundancy, but he demands strict obedience to his will. There is no way of prolonging the life of human beings or any other life unless it begins with restrictions of foods which sustain life, the right kinds of food, and the proper time when it should be taken into our bodies. Jehovah taught Israel how to live, but Israel rebelled against the law of Jehovah, handed down to them through Moses, the servant of Jehovah. There are many Jews today called Orthodox Jews who try to eat in order to live. They are careful of the type of food that goes into their stomachs. They will not slaughter an animal without trying to drain that animal's blood out of its body before taking it for food. They will not accept diseased animals, birds, or fowls. We give credit to the Jews for still trying to obey that which they were ordered to do by Allah through the prophets that Allah sent to them. The Jews paid the penalty for disobedience and are still paying. However, they are the only people the Holy Quran teaches whose food we can eat. They, in turn, can eat our food. The Muslims who try to live according to the teachings of the Holy Quran will not eat the wrong food when they know what that food is. Of course, those who are becoming converts to Islam in America, my followers, are being tried. The Christians, white and black, try to force or deceive my followers into eating foods they know we, the Muslims, do not approve. In prison, they almost starve my followers, trying to force them to eat the filthy, poisonous swine flesh. This I know, because when I was in prison, they did the same to me. Thanks to the coming of Allah in the person of Master Fraud Muhammad, if we obey what he has given to us in the way of proper foods and the proper time to partake of these foods, we will never be sick or have to pay hundreds, thousands, and millions of dollars for doctor bills and hospitalization. The Christian people have one of the most brutal ways of killing animals for their food. Many of their animals are killed under fright and excitement. They actually murder the animals they eat. We, the Muslims who have not been able to go out to the slaughterhouses as yet to choose our meat, as the Orthodox Jews are doing, slaughter our animals or cattle at a time when they least expect it. We take their lives in the name of Allah, with a prayer over this condemned life to be used to sustain our lives. Allah has taught me how to eat in order to live. I have been teaching it to my followers, but we often become negligent and fall victim to our own negligence. As a result, we are calling the doctor or going to the hospital because we did not eat the right foods and in the proper way. Hereafter, I shall enforce restriction on my followers to eat as Allah bids us. As I have said to my followers on many occasions, life cannot be prolonged unless we are careful of what we eat and when we eat. The foolish idea of eating 3 or 4 times a day and all between meals is like the poisonous swine who never has any regular eating habit. Even a dog will not eat when he is full most of the time. The hog, however, swallows as long as he can and then regrets that he can't keep swallowing. He will crawl into his food and wait until he can swallow some more. He is so greedy, he won't leave his food. Vegetables. Virtually all vegetables are good to eat except collard greens and turnip salad. The roots of turnips do very well, but not the salad. Cabbages are good, especially the white head, but not the green leaves. Cauliflower is a really fine vegetable, but take away the green leaves. There are a lot of other good vegetables that have been grafted from original vegetables, though some of the grafted vegetables are not good to eat. Do not eat the vegetable called kale. Eat some spinach, but do not become a habitual spinach eater. Eat rutabaga, a little every now and then. You may eat as much garlic and onion as you like, but no sweet potatoes and no white potatoes. Sweet potatoes were never good for any human to eat. They are good for hogs, but not for you. White Irish potatoes are a food for people who live in frigid zones, a staple food for such as Europe, Northern America, and Canada. But potatoes and rice are too starchy for you and me. They laden us with too much starch and fat, which are friends to diabetes. Sweet potatoes are full of gas. do not eat them. There are many more vegetables you will find edible or forbidden to eat in this book. If you like, write me for information on the other vegetables not mentioned here. Peas. Allah forbids us to eat peas. He considers most peas fit for cattle and herds of animals, but not for the delicate stomachs of human beings. No black-eyed peas, filled peas, speckled peas, red peas, or brown peas. Do not eat the split peas you find in the store. Peas, collard greens, turnip greens, sweet potatoes, and white potatoes are very cheaply raised foods. The southern slave masters used them to feed the slaves and still advise the consumption of them. Most white people of the middle and upper class do not eat this lot of cheap food, which is unfit for human consumption. Beans dry. No beans did he advise, except the small navy, the small size and not the larger size, the little brown pink ones and the white ones. This bean he valued to be very high in protein, fats, and starches, and it is a safe food for prolonging life. As you will find, most of the Muslims like their bean soup. These beans are dry beans. He said that he could take one of our babies and start him off eating the dry small navy bean soup and make that child live 240 years. He described no other bean. This dry bean, or pulse, is of ancient origin. It was this bean, according to certain historians, that Daniel preferred for himself and his followers in the prison of Nebuchadnezzar. Do not add rice and meats to these beans because they contain proteins, fats, and starches. Fruits. Virtually all fruits are good. We eat apples, oranges, bananas, pears, peaches, tangerines, mangoes, plums. Do not eat processed dried grapes. Eat natural sun-dried grapes, pomegranates, lemons, and grapefruit. Bread. Eat whole wheat, but not the whole grain. It is too much for the digestive system. Eat wheat. Never white flour, which has been robbed of all its natural vitamins and proteins sold separately as cereals. You know as well as I that the white race is a commercializing people and they do not worry about the lives they jeopardize so long as the dollar is safe. You might find yourself eating death if you follow them. He flatly forbids us to eat cornbread. The white race and some African people used to live off cornbread because it is cheaply made. It is not good for human consumption because of its potency, which only animal stomachs are able to digest. Positively, do not eat cornbread. If you must or are forced to eat it, he said to cook it 2 or 3 times, put it up, sour it with a good yeast, dice onions into it, and let it ferment like wheat bread. After this, cook it 2 or 3 more times. Cook it through 2 or 3 times. I apologize. Never eat fresh, hot corn muffins or hot cakes and syrup. When you eat half-cooked bread, it shortens your life, as all bread will rise again in our stomachs, buckling our stomach and intestinal walls. The more it is cooked, the less this will happen. Rye bread, if it is cooked enough, is fine to eat. It is not good for office people. They are not active enough to digest such a bread. It is good for a working man doing manual labor. Office workers should not even eat baked beans nor beans with rice and meat in them because their jobs do not permit them enough activity to digest such heavy foods. Prepare your own food. Take time and prepare your own foods. Do not kill yourselves by running to the store buying processed foods to eat, and never buy those ready-made biscuits. We plan to install health food departments in our bakeries, grocery store, and restaurant soon. Watch for them. Do not eat the highly rich soybean, which is a new flour on the market. These beans are for cattle, not for human beings. The oil from the soybeans is not good for your stomachs, for our stomachs. Soybean flour is being mixed with wheat flour by the flour mills. In fact, the Christians are experimenting with all foods. They do not care what they eat as long as it does not kill them instantly. Beware. For good health, we should raise and prepare our own food. As I said in this book, the white race is a commercializing race by nature. It is the almighty dollar they are after, not long life. Remember, cook your bread thoroughly. Make thin rolls so that you can cook them well done. The rolls should be sliced, and those slices of bread should be toasted through and through before they are eaten. There is no such thing as being too stale. Actually, stale bread is better on your stomach and digestive system. Positively, eat no nuts. The eating regulations in this book are a must with my followers. Begin at once. Eat only one meal a day regardless of the work you are doing. Do not put lard in your bread. Use vegetable oil, corn oil, pure butter, olive oil, or whatever good vegetable oil you choose. Keep any hog or swine out of your foods. Do not eat fried or hard-baked foods if you can avoid them. When it comes to meats, no fried chicken or steaks. Nothing fried. Fried foods are hard on your digestive system and will cut short your life. Food God suggests. What food does Allah God suggest? He suggests the food that is good for us and does not make us ill. Food that is for human consumption and not for animals. Never before have we gone so far astray. The European white race, blessed with the privilege of eating the best food the earth provides, has taught us to eat the worst divinely prohibited food. We eat all the time, 3 and 4 times a day. This is enough to wear out the intestines of a brass monkey. Eat a single meal a day, no matter what anyone says. If your doctor says that you should eat more than 1 meal a day, ignore him with a smile and eat only once a day. If he tells you that he eats 3 meals a day, tell him that his length of life is about the same as his patient's. Then tell the doctor to try eating 1 meal a day. The more idle our stomachs are, the longer they will last. The more we tax our stomach, the sooner it wears out. We all try to live as long as we can because nature never teaches us that we should not try to live. We do not have a nature that teaches us to die or teaches of life somewhere else. No matter how staunch a believer the Christian may be in a life after the grave, if he gets sick, he sends for the doctor. He prays to stay on here and not to go on to the unknown. To live a long time, Allah in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad has taught me life must begin with the type of food that will prolong life. We have been talking about bread. There are people so poor they have no choice, and there are some so rich who still have no choice. Whole wheat bread cooked thoroughly is the best bread. It should be ground very fine. It can be ground almost as fine as its white kernel. Never eat cornbread. As I said, rye bread is all right for the hard-working man. Even at that, it should be cooked twice. The Christian civilization has taught the so-called Negro slave to eat freshly baked bread, white biscuits or white rolls, just out of the oven, and it scorns old bread, which is better for the stomach than freshly baked breads or cakes. There are many foods we would like to teach you not to eat, but at present, so many of you cannot avoid eating them. We must prepare and grow our own food because this is a highly commercialized world. They graft a lot of food, and some of this food is not good for our stomachs. Soybean flour is very rich and not good for our stomachs. Our stomachs are too delicate for soybean flour. Therefore, leave those beans alone. The animals, especially cattle and hogs, love them. Grind them up and they will eat them. They are very high in protein. The lima bean is another large bean advertised by the devil for you to eat, which will almost burst the lining of the stomach and intestines of a Texas bull. They said, that one is good for the nigger. Do not eat the smaller ones either, the ones they call baby lima beans, baby belly busters. Pastries and cakes, the kind made with crust of white flour and sweetened with white sugar, so sweet you can still taste them the next day, are not good for our stomachs. All this hastens you to the graveyard sooner than you would like to go. We should eat fruit and fruit pies. I love that little blackberry pie, huckleberry, as we call it in the South. But do not make it with white sugar or crust of white flour. Use brown sugar and whole wheat flour for your pie and cobbler crust. Apples are better when eaten raw than when made into pies. This goes for pears, peaches, and bananas. All fruit is better for you raw than cooked. When fruit is raw, we get the benefit of all its natural vitamins. If possible, never eat cooked fruit. If you must eat meat, always eat the cleanest, such as healthy and tuberculosis-free beef. The lamb is the best. Most beef is too coarse for our stomachs. The lamb is a much finer grained meat. Eat small young pigeons, squabs, which have never flown from their nest. Do not eat any bird that has been free to fly around and look for its own food. This is the teaching of Allah to me. Chickens are not fit to eat. You have to nurse them so carefully to keep them away from filth. If you would like to find good food such as lamb, beef, or even chicken, if you are a Muslim, buy it from the strictly Orthodox Jew. Be certain it is an Orthodox kosher market because some Jews eat the pig. Orthodox Jews are excellent in protecting their health, even spiritually trying to do and eat like their prophet Moses taught them through the divine teachings of Allah. If you respect yourselves, Muslims, the spiritual Orthodox Jew will respect you. Of course, no one will respect you unless you respect yourself. Do not eat ground meat unless you see it ground. Do not buy the Christians' ready prepared ground meats or any ready ground meat. Buy the quality meats you like and have them ground by the Orthodox kosher butchers through their meat grinders because they do not have the pig near their shops. They are like us. They hate the divinely prohibited flesh. If you must eat rice, please brown it thoroughly in your oven or on top of your stove with a little butter or oil to keep it from sticking. Keep stirring it vigorously. Remember, eat only one meal once every 24 hours. Why they urge you to eat the swine. The taking of the prohibited flesh of the swine as a food is beyond righteous imagination. It is difficult to understand why Christians eat such divinely prohibited flesh while having a Bible and the law given to Moses against the swine flesh. Other prophets down to Muhammad preached against the eating of the swine. Christians are among the largest consumers of pork in America, and they deliver this rat throughout the world to other people. They are so fond of swine flesh that they sacrifice it in the church, and they then ask divine blessings upon it. They barbecue and cook it and hold a feast in their places of worship and eat this slow-death poisonous animal which God has forbidden, as though they had an option with God. No wonder Isaiah says that they stand behind one tree in the garden, eating swine flesh, the abomination, the mouse, and the broth of the swine in their vessels. And yet, they will tell all Muslims and Orthodox Jews that they are holier than we who do not dare even touch the swine's carcass. Preachers and priests are working along with the enemy, our adversary of God, teaching the people that it is all right to eat swine. Their bellies stretched with the hog in them and saturated with the whiskey and wine. This is the type of religion under which you have been brought. Christianity and its preachers and priests. None of them have tried to prevent you from breaking this divine law by teaching you the consequences of such an act. Allah taught me that this grafted animal was made for medical purposes, not for a food for the people, and that this animal destroys the beautiful appearance of its eaters. It takes away the shyness of those who eat this brazen flesh. Nature did not give the hog anything like shyness. Take a look at their immoral dress and actions, their worship of filthy songs and dances that an uncivilized animal or savage human being of the jungle cannot even imitate. Yet average black people who want to be loved by their enemies, regardless of what God thinks of them, have gone to the extreme in trying to imitate the children of their slave masters in all their wickedness, filthiness, and evil. The Arabic meaning of hog or swine, according to the Arab Muslim, is khanzir, khan. He says means I see. Zir means fowl. This is the meaning of the English word swine, khanzir, or I see the animal, fowl. And very foul is the best explanation that I have heard to cover the very nature and characteristics of this animal. He is the foulest animal. He lives off nothing but filth. The only way you can get him to live and eat better food is to keep him from getting to filth. He is so poisonous, 99.9%, that you can hardly poison him with other poison. You can give him lye, something you'd think would cut the intestines when eaten. Snakes can't poison hogs. They eat them and fatten them. The bite of snakes doesn't harm them because they eat the biter. He is so poisonous and filthy that nature had to prepare him a sewer line and may find the opening in his forelegs. It is a little hole out of which oozes pus. This is the filth of his body that cannot be passed fast enough. His poison is that of a live nature in the form of a parasitic worm that is called strychnine, commonly known as porkworm, which is found in the stomach and intestinal walls, until it finally breathes and works itself into the muscles of the body of the eater. From there, the strychnine work themselves into the spinal cord and travel a spinal cord toward the brain, at which time there is no possible cure. They then cause the victim to suffer with rheumatism, backaches, stomach aches, headaches, fever, and even change the color of the eyes of some eaters to a dull brown or dull red. They fill the eater with drowsiness, laziness, slow thinking, slow moving, and the tendency to be easily irritated. The swine eaters are always ready to rise up for a dispute and fight other people among themselves. He is the greediest animal. He never knows or cares to stop eating as long as he sees something to eat. He is the dumbest animal. He keeps his nose smelling and eyes looking for something in the earth. You could feed him all day long and he will never look up to see his feeder. In the case of a bad weather arising, he is never intelligent enough to go in before it actually starts raining or hailing on his back. He takes no warning. He will keep his head in the earth, rooting until the storm is lashing his back, with rain and the lightning is blinding his eyes. You eat this animal from his snout to his tail, and all of the poisonous wormy intestines. Yet you say you are holier than any religious people. Please learn to eat 1 meal a day, and let it be without swine flesh. And many of the ailments that you are now suffering and getting medicine from the doctor for will disappear. To you, diabetics, eat 1 meal a day and lay off that starch and sugar. They are only making you sick. Write and let me know that you have tried eating once a day, shunning sugar and starches, and before a week's time, your urine will be negative of sugar and acid negative. It is ignorant for you to suffer with this disease when it can easily be cured. Just stop eating that which is causing you trouble. Eat 1 meal a day. You will not starve and die. The pig, swine. I think we have said enough about the poisonous animal called in Arabic khanzir. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, the swine is the filthiest and foulest animal human beings could have resorted to for food. The flesh of the swine while cooking has a very different smell from that of other animals' flesh while cooking. And even when it is not being cooked, it has a bad smell. Worms and insects take its flesh while in the farmer's curing stage faster than to any other animal's flesh, and in a few days it is full of worms. In many cases, the eater of the flesh becomes nauseated when the flesh is being cooked in the early morning. It is a divinely prohibited flesh, and God Allah has prohibited you and me, my brothers and sisters of the black nation, from eating it or even touching its dead carcass. Please, for our health's sake, stop eating it. For our beauty's sake, stop eating it. For our obedience to God and his laws against this flesh, stop eating it. For a longer life, stop eating it. And for the sake of modesty, stop eating it. Do you know that if we, the 22 million lost found members of the nation here in America, would stop eating this pig, his poison swine flesh, it would mean a great economic saving to us? And I do not think the government would be so eager to eat it themselves if we would obey this divine law against this divinely prohibited flesh. There is an old foolish answer our people have given to such advice. The white folks eat it, and my grandparents ate it, and they lived to be 75 and 80 years old. If Noah and Methuselah had heard you boasting that your parents lived only 75 or 80 years eating poison, they would have considered your parents as never having grown up to become adults, according to their good way of eating the best food about twice a week and living nearly 1,000 of our present calendar years, which consists of 365 days. God does not punish us for the crime of disobedience to his laws when we are ignorant of his laws. But after knowledge of his laws, he is justified in punishing us by setting the full penalty according to the disobedience. As I have previously said in this book, most vegetables that are sold on the public market are good to eat, with the exception of those Allah prohibits, such as collard greens and the rough turnip salads. You have plenty of other vegetables to eat. And you have good beans, other than lima beans, field butter beans called baby lima beans, and black-eyed peas, field peas as we call them. Fasting. Fasting is a greater cure of our ills, both mental and physical, than all of the drugs of the earth combined into one bottle or a billion bottles. Allah God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad has taught me that fasting, with the right kind of food is the cure for our ills. He has said to me that there is no cure in drugs and medicine, and this the world is now learning. We can take medicine all of our lives until it kills us, yet we are still ailing with the same old diseases. The bad foods and drinks that we are putting into our bodies keep us a victim to illness. There are very few nice doctors who like to tell you that drugs are not good for you because they are paid for their learning and want to keep practicing. But how to eat to live is what we want to know and have wanted to know all of our lives. All men and women want to know how they can prolong their lives. Nature teaches us to stay here in this life as long as we can. Nature has never taught anyone that he should leave this life and find another one somewhere else, because we only have one life. And if this life is destroyed, we would have a hard time trying to get more life. It is impossible. So try to keep this life that you have as long as possible. Go when you cannot stay here any longer. Allah taught me that 1 meal a day would keep us here for a long time. We would live over 100 years. Eating 1 meal every 2 days would lengthen our lives just that much longer. He said to me that you would never be sick eating 1 meal every 3 days. The fact that fasting is the cure for 90% of our ills is known by medical scientists, but they do not teach you that. They know that tobacco, hard whiskey, and alcohol are not good for you and will shorten your life and kill you. But most of them are too weak themselves to stop drinking, smoking, or chewing tobacco. So they do not teach you that tobacco and alcoholic drinks made into what is known as whiskey, beer, and wine are not good for you, although they know it to be true. They will say, yes, it is good for you if you are temperate. But they know that once you get started on that stuff, it is such an enemy that it just takes you into its power. And it is almost like trying to break an iron chain to get away from the habit. So do not use tobacco in any form, and you will live a few years longer. Fast once a month for 3 days, 4 days, or for whatever length of time you are able to go without food without harming yourself, and you will feel good. Did you know that if you would stop eating pig and the food that you should not eat, stop eating 3 and 4 times a day, and stop drinking whiskey, beer, and wine, you would save much in the way of money and prolonging your life by abstaining from the pig, alcoholic drinks, and tobacco. You will also be adding money to your savings by hundreds and thousands of dollars. You will be depriving those pig raisers, tobacco growers, and alcoholic distillers of millions of dollars, of which they rob you as they hasten you to your grave. You could stop the tobacco growers from growing that stinking weed by turning away from the use of it. And you could stop the pig raising by not eating the stinking hog. These things are death to your children, and in their early ages. They even affect the reproductive organs of people in the early ages, as well as affect the heart, lungs, and sharpness of thinking. And after all of this, you die a victim of poison and commercialization. Learn to eat to live. Alhamdulillah. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. The time is 9:36 a.m. and we know 9 plus 9 equals 18, which is 9, which is completion. So I think that is a proper place to stop for today's reading. That was we ended on page 21 of How to Eat to Live. And inshallah, we'll pick back up tomorrow or the next day. Inshallah, tomorrow. But I would like to thank you all for listening. I pray that you really, really take these teachings to heart. He said, once you know something, then Allah will chastise you, or can, he said can, chastise you to the full penalty of the disobedience to that law, because that's willful disobedience, iniquity. So strive to be 100% in submission to his will when you know what that will is. And I pray that we all continue to strive for that obedience. I would like to leave you as I came before you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. I pray that you tune in next time and get these teachings. Until then, peace.